amazing subscribers has requested videos on the Myers-Briggs personality test, and this will require a series. In this intro video, I'll introduce the Myers-Briggs personality test as well as a few facts you've likely never heard of before. I've got my comfy clothes on and I've got my water, so here we go. The Myers-Briggs was developed in the 1940s, and it is still widely popular today, both in personal and professional spheres. After taking a personality assessment, your results will be a combo of 4 letters, which signify traits of your personality. The first letter will be either E or I for extrovert or introvert. The second letter S or N for sensing or intuitive. The third letter F or T for feeling or thinking. And the last letter P or J for perceiving or judging. Now if you're thinking,
what do these terms even mean?
Let's break it down. As I'll get into later, each letter actually encompasses many different but related traits. But for right now, I'll introduce the one trait historically associated with each letter. The extroversion-introversion spectrum in the Myers-Briggs traditionally measures your sociability trait, with extroverts being generally outgoing and expressive around others, and introverts being generally more reserved. The sensing and intuitive spectrum indicates the focus of your thoughts and communication, with sensors focusing on the external, tangible environment, and intuitives preferring to focus on the internal and intangible, like ideas, concepts, and theories. The thinking versus feeling spectrum refers to how you handle social interactions and make judgments. Feelers are often personal and empathetic with others and use feelings prominently in making judgments, while thinkers are often impersonal and objective with people and decisions. Finally, the perceiving and judging spectrum measures how flexible or scheduled you are. Perceivers like to be flexible and look for spontaneous opportunities, while judgers like to make and keep more firm schedules. There are 16 distinct personality types from the letter combos that are divided into 4 broader categories: guardians, artisans, idealists, and rationals. As you can see from the red letters in this diagram, the personality types are categorized by a couple of letters the personalities have in common. While the personalities lumped into the broader categories are considered to have the most similar traits, each personality has a distinct description assigned to it. Now, if you or someone you know has trouble answering the questions, or the results don't seem that accurate, here are a few common reasons why this may happen. Some versions of the test, especially some on the internet, are very short. A few questions pertaining to each letter on the test cannot accurately measure your personality traits. Now, if you would like to take the Myers-Briggs test, I have a longer, more accurate version of it linked in the description box. Some versions of the test can be inaccurate and confusing. Even the original test can be a little bit confusing in the wording of the questions, which is considered a drawback of this particular personality inventory. The Myers-Briggs personality types were originally, and still are by most people, treated like distinct groups. But modern psychology has found it's better read using spectrums and seeing where you fall on the spectrum for each letter. An introvert who is a couple points away from being an extrovert is more similar to an extrovert who is also more moderate, rather than an introvert who is very extreme on the introvert scale. Some tests now do include spectrum scores with the results instead of just the letter combo, which is awesome in helping you gauge yourself. One single personality type description may fit you well if you are extreme on all letters, but few people are that extreme on each letter. When you fall more moderately on a spectrum or right between 2 letters, you should look at both or all the categories that you are akin to. For example, say you get ESFJ and you are very moderately over on the judging side. Also look up the description for ESFP as well, because you will likely possess qualities of both personality types. We humans are too complex to be put into neat little boxes. Some people will find themselves answering how they would like to be, not how they really are now, whenever they're answering the questions. It's okay to know how you would like to be in the future to improve yourself, but it's important to know how you are now so you will gain an accurate picture of what all you have to improve upon in the future. You will likely quit striving to become your ideal self if you feel like you are already there, so be honest about where you are right now whenever you're taking the test. There are some questions that you just may not know how to answer because you haven't really thought about yourself in certain situations. I can think of a few questions I didn't really know how to answer whenever I was taking it. I know several people who also took it and just didn't know how they would react in a hypothetical situation given in a question. This is pretty common for people, but I found that it's still really good to take the test even if you don't really know how to answer every single question. I will explain why I think that's still important later in this video. Now, there are quite a few misconceptions about the Myers-Briggs floating around out there, so let's address some common ones. As I have already addressed, it's ideal to look at the spectrums and see where you scored on each spectrum, rather than just looking at the raw combination of letters you were given. Even though each letter is originally representative of just one trait, modern psychology says there are indeed multiple related traits each category can be broken down into. For example, perceiving and judging types are different in multiple ways. They are indeed different in how scheduled and punctual they are, which is the historical and original meaning of this particular letter, but they are also different in how flexible, how organized, how messy, and how uptight they tend to be. I've observed some people may be more judging in some ways and more perceiving in others whenever you look at the multiple breakdown of mini spectrums. You can actually break down each letter into multiple traits if you want, which does make the Myers-Briggs more complicated, but also offers a better understanding of personality nuances. Each personality type is given stereotypical strengths and weaknesses, but no personality type is inherently better or worse than another. It's comparing apples and oranges. This is not a competition of who is better or who is worse. It's about understanding your individual unique traits. I found this claim in a magazine article that I used for this video. I thought it was a really good article, which is why I'm using it as a reference, but I have to disagree with this claim. Some descriptions do include the weaknesses and the downfalls of a particular personality type. For example, one of the sources that I am going to be using heavily for this series does emphasize good tendencies, but it does not exclude the negative ones. For example, here are some lines of the personality descriptions given in this book. Their talent for enjoying life is healthy for the most part, though it makes them subject to temptations more than the other types. They are inclined to be impulsive and self-indulgent, which makes them vulnerable to seduction, giving in easily to the wishes of others or to the desire of the moment. More often, they will do what they feel like in the moment rather than what is good for them in the long run, chalking it up to experience or blaming someone else if things don't turn out well. They can swing from extravagance to frugality, and their home may contain expensive luxuries while necessities may be missing. They are largely disinterested in such things as domestic maintenance, savings accounts, life insurance, and even ready cash. Orderliness in their routines of daily living is not apt to inspire them, and they usually solve this problem by letting their mates pick up after them. They like to spar verbally with their loved ones, and if their mates are not intellectually competitive, they are likely to find such one-up, one-down transactions somewhat wearying. If the mate is competitive, however, the result might be delightful give and take, or at times marital conflict. Now, I know of some descriptions that are like all positive, and that's really not accurate, but it's also inaccurate to say that every single description out there is going to be cherry picking for the positive. Many, like the ones in this book, include negative and positive, which is considered very representative of a person to have both strengths and weaknesses. Just as it is irresponsible to say that the Myers-Briggs is flawless, because it's not, it is also equally irresponsible to say that the system is completely flawed and useless. Both extreme opinions gloss over the facts and keep the mind closed to the mix of concern and value that you can find in the test. It's actually quite common for your type to change and grow as you learn and as you gain new experiences, and you may act differently under different circumstances. You are not boxed into being the same person your whole life.
I think when I was a kid, I was probably a full-on thinking type, and then I got to be more of a feeling type as I got older.
Now, I personally like that our types can change, because I like that people can change whenever they learn and they grow. But psychology actually looks upon this as a concern with the Myers-Briggs test, which brings us to our next category. This is a big concern, and it would be irresponsible to leave out the fact that science actually doesn't support it very well. I will explain why I still find this series important to make at the end of this video. Ah yes, types can change, and admittedly 4 weeks is a very short time for one to be changing in. This is one of the reasons why science considers it very questionable. Science prefers a test that will give the same result almost always over a good period of time. There are people who will say, "Oh, you're this type?"
Well, then I don't need to know any more about you.
I already have you pegged.
A personality type is a great way to start understanding someone, but it should never define a person. I really hope that the discussion in this video about the nuances of personality typing and the nuances of personality in general will help minimize the tendency to want to box people in based upon their personality type. So despite all of the misconceptions and the concerns, why do I still feel like it's important to make this Myers-Briggs video series? And it is not just because it is a requested video. I have my own reasons why I consider this a very important topic. The Myers-Briggs is all over the internet, along with a few misunderstandings. Even with my psychology degree, I am still no expert on this particular topic, yet even I can see that there is a lot of misinformation out there about it, including claims that it's scientifically accurate when really it's actually not. And much of the info that I gleaned from scientific sources whenever I made this video is conspicuous in their absence from many popular online forums, even ones that are supposed to be about the Myers-Briggs personality test, which is a bit of a concern. This intro and this series is meant to be as objective an analysis as possible, both the positive and the negative of the test. So I am not here to worship this amazing gift to humanity that is the Myers-Briggs, nor am I here to bash it. I just want to give you the facts. But I should tell you right now that I am actually a little bit biased because I enjoy the Myers-Briggs. I just thought that I should tell you right now where my bias stood, just so you know. If you take the Myers-Briggs test and you aren't quite sure how to answer every single question on the test, I still consider it very beneficial to take the test, even if you don't know the answer to every single question, because it gets you to thinking about aspects of yourself and of personality in general that maybe you had never thought to consider before. After taking the Myers-Briggs test myself, I've learned more about myself, and the learning was facilitated by just realizing that there is some aspect of myself that I didn't think about before. Now, this is a personal reason for liking the Myers-Briggs, but I know many people who also have had the same experience, and maybe you can relate to this too if you've taken it. I'm a rare personality type, and growing up, I thought there was something wrong with me because I didn't seem to think and act and feel like a lot of my peers. I was also kind of treated like a freak at times, which really didn't help anything. But when I took the Myers-Briggs test, I realized that it wasn't a matter of something being wrong with me. I was just different. I had a lot of traits that a lot of people did not have, and there was nothing wrong with that. Maybe I was unusual, but I wasn't a freak. At least I hope. It opened my mind in a way to let me accept and treasure my own unique qualities. I even learned that some of my problems could be used as strengths if I only learned how to harness them. I am, of course, prone to a few unhealthy tendencies, but knowing where my weaknesses lie helped me to make better decisions. But I would never have gained this new, deeper self-awareness if I had never taken the Myers-Briggs test in the first place. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned plenty from it, and keep being nothing less than the best YouTube family. See you guys later!